So the topic we're going to discuss today is a topic in Achdus Hashem. It touches upon Hashgacha Protis. It touches upon Bitachon. It touches upon a lot of the roots that are at the core of many of the discussions that we've had. And I titled it "The Root of Many Challenges." It ties into Chav Beishvat, as we'll see. In Chassidus terms, what we're really discussing is what is a keli. That's what we're really discussing today. In Chassidus, we have a lot of fancy terms, Providence and Kalim. We're told to make a keli, so that's a little bit of an introduction in the sense of where we're coming from the Chassidus landscape. But let's start off with a question. Let's start off with a somehow set the table. We find in all different places of Chassidus that we're supposed to make a keli. Make a keli. Common term used. We're supposed to somehow feel Hakol miyad Hashem. Everything comes from the Eibishter. And more often than not, we're saying it and not meaning it. And Chassidus is very subtle. It's coming to address nuances in recognition, not blatant recognition. There's just saying there isn't an Eibishter and there is an Eibishter. That's not where Chassidus comes to discuss. There's a lot of shades and colors in the middle. And there are nuances here. In order to address them, we need to open up and be honest when we do say Eibishter, when we do recognize, what do we really mean? I'm going to give a few examples to show how there really is a void in our lip service of thanking the Eibishter. Let me give a few examples. A person writes a thought. He comes up with a thought, writes on top of the page, Beis HaMachdalet. Then someone comes and takes the thought and goes to California, and goes to Silicon Valley, and builds a company from that thought. Are you upset? Of course, intellectual property. I thought you already told, why are you upset? It's not yours, it's the Eibishter's. Didn't you write on top of that paper, Beis HaMachdalet, it's the Eibishter's thought? What are you upset? They stole from the... No, it's my thought. It is your thought. So why did you write Beis HaMachdalet on top of that paper? Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem what? You never gave up your thought. Are we supposed to?
But Hashem gave you the thought.
So usually how do we think? Very good. So usually the baruch, the recognition, thank you Eibishter for making my head clear, for giving me a good head, for allowing me to wake up. But now that I'm up, I appreciate it. Now I'm on my own. I know what to do. I got it all straight. So the bracha is really on creating teva and not within teva.
Creating teva?
Yeah. What's the bracha that I bench the Eibishter? Thank you very much for allowing me to have a clear head, or even more than that, for giving me the gift of being born with a good head. For giving me any other specific gift. But now that I have the gift, it's in my hands to utilize that gift and use it out the way I understand best. And when I do it, it's mine, and I own it, and I appreciate it, and I feel like it's mine. And that's normal. That's the natural way how we feel. So what does it mean when we say in Chassidus that when a leaf falls from a tree, it's Yad Hashem? It's not Yad Hashem. That's the same way the thought that falls from my head is Yad Hashem. It's me. The thought that pops out of my head is me. I got it. I understand it, and I feel for it. Is it even possible to think differently? Is Chassidus coming to tell me or explain me? Chassidus is coming to explain me that somehow I can think differently. And this is not philosophical. This is so relevant in life. This is the shoydish.
Copyright. Isn't copyright?
Yeah.
What about taking pride in your children?
So we're gonna get. I'm just starting off with this as a premise to lay the ground for the discussion. Simply to be honest and be able to pinpoint and identify where we naturally thank Hashem, where we naturally appreciate His role, and where we naturally don't appreciate His role, and we actually kind of leave it to me. I got it here. I'll tell you even more than that. So again, let me just wrap up this first thought. First nakuda we're looking to do over here is to highlight where we normally allow Eibishter into our lives. And when I say normally, that means to say that's how we're born. Teva b'nei Adam is to feel proud, to feel ownership, to feel your things are yours. A shmata doesn't feel themselves. A human feels themselves. So that's Teva b'nei Adam. That's simply how we're naturally born. The Eibishter created me. I am my, and it's Teva Proti and Teva Kloli. It's in the human nature and in the nature of the world. It's the same idea. Just like in human nature, you understand that when you come up with a thought, it's yours, you're essentially looking the same way at the world as a whole. And when you read in the Chassidus, the Beletele, and all these other fancy ways of how the Eibishter's found and everything, let's take a step aside and see how we really look at it. I'm going to prove it to you from business. There's a clause in insurance policies that's called Act of God.
Yes.
The Act of God. The Act of God clause. You see, insurance is really there to protect you from the Eibishter. That's what it's there for. Insurance is essentially there to protect you from the unknown. I know, but I also kind of know enough to know what's unknown. But then there are some places that I really don't know, and that I can't protect you. There's the God clause. Those things I'm not protecting you from. Stay out. Those things I don't get. In nature, a real businessman, you know what they daven for? Eibishter, I know the system. I know it. I'm a smart guy. Just do me a favor. Don't put a Hurricane Sandy. You mess up the whole thing. Don't. Bar Kochva is exactly the same thing. Very good. Eibishter, do me a favor. I know Teva. I know myself. I'm davening for you to stay out. Stay out. Do me a favor. Don't get involved. When you come in, you mess it all up. I got it. I know it. I know what to expect. I know what comes. Stay out. Leave me alone. I got a pat down. I have my strategy. That's what business is. Business is a strategy based on what's happening now, what's happening later. And business is the same thing in personal life, and it's the same thing how we're wired to think. That's how humans think. That's how we really, in the end of the davening, Baruch Aleinu, Refeinu, Eibishter, I'm good now. Don't make me unhealthy. Leave me alone. Mess me up. That's what we daven for. If we don't have, we daven come in. But if we have, we daven stay out. That's what we daven for. So essentially we're saying, I have my domain, you have your domain. Stick to your things and I stick to my things. That's what we daven for. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the beginning of Avodah Zarah. And let me explain how. And this is what Chassidus comes to discuss.
I know only one person who refused to have life insurance, Ari Kaplan, alav hashalom. Everybody criticizes.
There's nothing. The Rebbe, the life insurance is a good thing. I'm referring to. The Rebbe said, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
The Rebbe said it's the best thing. It's good for everybody. It's good for the life insurance policy. It's good for the person, as long as it doesn't happen. Everybody wants it shouldn't happen. Everybody wants it shouldn't happen. Anyway, but since it's a school, I think he brought me to the school. I think so. Anyway, I didn't see, but regardless,
They're buying a plot is also that's what happened.
regardless. So let's in the code over here. The Rebbe asks a question. Chassidus asks a question. This was a preface. Chassidus asks a question, and pay attention to this. This is a little bit now, perhaps. We need to think a little bit. But then you'll see this is simply, you see, at the core of every problem, there's a thought pattern. A real diagnosis doesn't look at symptoms. There's a problem over here, it hurts over here, it hurts over here. Let me hear a little more. This is the problem. The diagnosis is one root for a lot of problems. Chassidus points at this root. Highlights this root. Now it looks like it's a thought pattern. Soon we'll see how this is a thought pattern that has a lot of consequences in life. A lot of consequences. But let's go a little bit deeper into the root. The question that's asked in Chassidus, the Eibishter created a world. Could you imagine Enosh, a grandchild, great-grandchild of Adam Rishon, walking around? The Rambam says, they started being Oived Avodah Zarah. Let me ask you a question. It's a mind-boggling thing. Enosh walks around, he goes to Adam. Adam, tell me, who's your tati? I have none. Who's your mama? I have none. Looks around, can't find any graveyards. There's no graveyards. Looks around, he says, you have no tata? I have a tata. How can you be koifer in the Eibishter? How can you be Oived Avodah Zarah? You have an Adam Rishon walking around. There's no cemeteries. You've got to be really whacked. No, there was a thought pattern at the root of Enosh. You know what Enosh said? Enosh said exactly like the businessmen, and this is exactly what happened by the Derech Hafloga, the Derech after the Mabel. They said exactly the same thing. They said, Eibishter. They turned around to Adam, he said to Adam like this. You used to be in Gan Eden, right? And then the Eibishter gave you everything you wanted. What did he tell you afterwards? Go and work for a living. So in other words, he told you that you have to make it work the way it makes sense. His chilul lechabe kechavim mazolis is essentially a thought pattern of saying it has to make sense to happen. That's exactly like the businessman today saying, Eibishter, you're out. You've sent me into this world. Not only that, the businessman who says that when it makes sense, it's going to happen, he's saying it in the name of the Eibishter. The Eibishter told me that. The Eibishter told me that I have to work. The Eibishter told me that I have to make it in the way that makes sense. So essentially, he's putting it in a packaging and in a marketing of the Eibishter, and he's right. The Eibishter told us we're supposed to make it happen the way we know how to make it happen, to my mind. And my mind is wired to own it. So essentially he's telling me, go do it the way you understand. I'm out, is exactly what he said. He said, get out. Throwing you out of Gan Eden. You're on your own. So the thought pattern that we have is the businessman thought pattern. The thought pattern of the few examples that we had. A person who comes up with a great thought and feeling that they own it. That's the feeling that was created after Chet Eitzadas. The feeling of ownership, the feeling of making it happen. That's how Hashem created the world after Chet Eitzadas. Before Chet Eitzadas, he gave it all to you. No one felt like they owned anything. Adam realized there's a dati over here and he's just taking care of me and everything is fine. After Chet Eitzadas, he told us that we have to make it happen. If you want me to make it happen, and you've put me in a place where I have to make it happen, you created me in a way that I make it happen in a way that I feel like it's mine, so that's how I feel. It's mine. That's exactly how it's going to be. So what else do you want from me? And that's what Enosh thought. So what's the problem with this? Where is the problem? Where is this such a bad thing that Rambam says this is the beginning of Avodah Zarah? It wasn't Avodah Zarah yet. The beginning from there eventually. Why is this Avodah Zarah? Where is the problem from this? How does this end up? And yet the same thing with Derech Hafloga. Derech Hafloga was after the Mabel. The Mabel messed up the whole world. The whole system of the world was messed up. So after the Mabel, they said, Eibishter, stay out. There was a Hurricane Andrew. Stay out. Do me a favor. Just haflaga, pilud. Just stay out and everything's good. We also have one like that. Sometimes. Many times. Back of our heads. Subconsciously. Whatever it may be. Right? But what's at the root of the problem? How can I think differently? First, let me understand why that's so detrimental.
They were disconnected.
So where does that lead? Let's give examples how this thought pattern leads us to be Oived Avodah Zarah, to let go of Torah mitzvahs. Where is this thought pattern? Where can you catch it? By you see, I told you it's going to lead to this. Where do we see that? Let's try to follow that thought pattern and see in our life where that leads to. First, let me sum it up on the paper. So we have in the paper 1, 2 in the beginning of the paper. Started off with a question. Again, this is a little bit, in Chassidus, the terminology uses shituf and avodah zarah. There's 2 stages, and this is shar yichud ve'emunah in a nutshell. So we started off with a question. Just to be honest, to be able to open up this conversation, we have to first recognize that we don't really say Baruch Hashem. We don't really appreciate. We have lip service at most. The appreciation is, thank you for allowing me to wake up. Depreciation is thank you for giving me the gifts that you created me with. Depreciation is not in the specific thought that popped out of my head. Depreciation is not, we say it's my baby in English. We use that word, my baby. It's my thing. I feel for it. It's my thing. And that's where intellectual property comes into place. And that's normal and natural. The world understands. Besides China, the intellectual property is something you don't steal. This is something we all understand. So, the Siyata D'Shmaya, you write in a paper, Siyata D'Shmaya for waking up. Not Siyata D'Shmaya within my thought, within my natural. But how do I get there? Am I supposed to get there? Why should I get there? There's quite a few questions that need to be understood. But first we have to appreciate there's a void. There's a void in our life. Sometimes we don't realize it. But now, hopefully, it's a little bit clear that there is actual void here. My thought is not right away so clear. Abish says, it's my thing. Someone's going to take it away, I'm going to be very upset. If I wake up with a headache, I blame the Eibishter. If I get intellectual property stolen, when someone went to California, I'm going to blame the person who took it from me. I know who to blame for which things. Certain things I know who to blame. So first we highlighted where in history this came from. Deit Enish, Deit Hafloga, that Tzemach Tzedek also writes a Deit of Achov. Achov was in times of the Beis HaMikdash.
Oh, yeah.
Achov and Baal and all that whole situation over there was also an extension of this thought pattern. And in Chassidus is brought down that in business we can also practice business. We say American Idol. We say the word idol in America. The dollar is an idol. In God we trust, or in the dollar we trust. I'm not sure what it says over there, but that's or in Wall Street we trust. But that's the same mindset. But we have to understand: is it a muneh? Where within this thought pattern can we puncture a hole? Can we somehow allow a deeper meaning that can penetrate into our consciousness and not feel like, I can feel like I give up. Okay, it's not mine. I'm going to give it up to someone. That's not what we're looking to give up. We're looking to have a recognition, not give up. Internalize. Where does that start from? So the first point that we have to highlight is where this creates a challenge. First challenge every Maimon has in the Eibishter is what happens when the Eibishter tells me to be oivid, to make a living. He tells me I'm supposed to make a living the way humans make a living. He tells me I'm supposed to live a life the way humans live a life. But he also gives me certain mitzvahs that seem to impede in the natural way how things go. Shemitah, Shabbos. And in areas of happiness, he also has certain mitzvahs that seem to differ from the way we naturally feel that happiness should flow. Bnei Chaim Mezayne, 3 years of Gashmistic life, he doesn't just say, work for a living and go to shul. He goes into the Bnei Chaim Mezayne, he goes into the natural way, and he tells us certain mitzvahs. Let's start with business, so it's not so personal. It's easier to take there, and that's what my moram usually focus on. Shemitah doesn't make sense. Sheishish Sanim, Shabbos doesn't make sense. Not only doesn't it make sense from the sense of nature, it doesn't make sense from your perspective. You told me not to rely on the mon. You told me that I'm supposed to make a living the way I know how to make a living, so keep out. So leave me alone. Don't come and give me a business. And if you want to give me a business strategy, give me the business strategy of the mon. You want me to do a business? You can't cut the cake on both sides. Eat the cake on both sides. You can't tell me on one hand, make it apiteva, and on the other hand, I'll tell you how to do it as in something which doesn't make sense, which is not in teva. You just told me to do it apiteva. You just told me I'm supposed to make a living the way I know how to make a living. So don't come and tell me close on Shabbos when my business is supposed to be running on Shabbos, because that's how my accountant told me I'm going to make my best money. And you're telling me Sheishis Yonam Shvish the one whole year? How's that going to happen apiteva? I got it, but you're telling me that I should do it within my world. How can you're impeding, you're telling me a contradicting statement. This is at the core of a lot of frustrations. A A lot of frustrations boiled down to this core. The challenge of, on one hand, you're telling me that I should live a life al pi teva, I should live a life the way I understand how to make it happen. And on the other hand, what are you telling me? You're contradicting yourself. You're telling me use teva, but then you're also kind of twisting teva inside out, not allowing it to be what it is. And then you tell me to do it as a human. How does that play out? Not only that, but this is, let me just play out the Avodah Zarah part of the story that highlights the Avodah Zarah part. There were two Yidlach in the 40s that were Shomer Shabbos, and they both lost their jobs. And they were Meisar Nefesh for Shabbos. So they come to a Rav, and they asked the Rav, they don't stand. We're both Meisar Nefesh for Shabbos. One of us ended up with children that were Shomer Torah mitzvahs, and the other one not. What went wrong? Why? The Rav said, one of them came home and said, the Eibishter messed it up for me again. Oy vey, the Eibishter messed it up for me again. I have to do what I have to do, and he's doing what he has to do in the sense of behavior pattern, he's doing everything. But what do the children hear? The Eibishter messed it up. Eibishter messed it up? Okay, I'll mess over the Eibishter if he messes you up. And the children can mess over the Eibishter. So from Shittuv it turns into Avodah Zarah. From the moment of that uncomfortable moment is the shayrish of a lot of times when we say, oh, you're mixing into my life. I had enough already. Enough. Zaymek isn't. So that moment, and the other one came home and said, oh, what a Eibishter, what a Shabbos. He had a different way how he took that conflict. So you see how that conflict ends up in life. That conflict is not just a theoretical conflict as in contradiction, conflict as in frustration, conflict as in deep frustration. How do I go ahead? It's not a theoretical thing. It plays out in life, and it's felt. And it continues into the children, into yourself, and continues in every moment. In many ways, it has to do with sleeping also. Some people take sleeping pills because they don't have this. Some doctors get very rich from sleeping pills from this. So we'll see why. The Yetzer Hara doesn't want to come and say Avodah Zarah. This is the first step, and we have to really understand. So what are we supposed to understand differently? Where are we supposed to puncture a hole into this paradigm? Now that we have at least a question, now we have to address, so what's at the root over here that's going to be different? How am I supposed to go ahead with the natural things that I go ahead with and take this differently? So again, now we're holding after number 5, and I just want to summarize this question so we can go into an answer. The root of our question is Teva la Milah Derech Teva. Everybody says Maimin. The question is not if you believe in the Eibishter. The question is how much of my life, a connection is genuine. A connection is not saying something or doing something. Connection is thinking and feeling. So most Shomer Torah mitzvahs are focused on doing. You're doing Torah mitzvahs. You're saying the right things. Baruch Hashem, Mitzvah Hashem. You're doing the right mitzvahs. Chassidus is focusing more on what's behind it. Did you come home and say oy vey? We want to discuss that oy vey. That oy vey is terrible. Might not be terrible this moment, but it's a terrible thing. It leads to terrible things. And if we feel the oy vey, it comes out. And the oy vey comes because in the mind there's a oy vey. The oy vey in the hearts comes from the mind. What's the oy vey in the mind? In the mind, it's that conflict. I don't get it. Tell me, what do you want from me? You told me I should make it happen. And you keep on telling me to do things in the normal way, in a way that it makes sense. But at the same time, you're also giving me these other mitzvahs that don't make sense. And you're telling me to do them within the framework of making sense. I'm frustrated. And I can't make sense of it because it doesn't make sense. So what do you want from me? And this is the essence of a Yid and the essence of a Goy. This is the essence of a few psukim brought down in regards to Parnas. And let's start with that. It says in the Pasuk, Egia kapecha kisoichel. Right after the Chet Eitzadas, Yigia kapecha. Says Chassidus, Yigia kapecha v'lo yigia samoichin. All my Mormons brought down. Yigia kapecha v'lo yigia samoichin. Loosely translated, person should toil with their hands and not with their mind. Let me ask you a question. It doesn't really play out that way in life.
Yeah, the hands.
Unless you're only doing plowing a field. And even when you plow a field, you have to know where to plow, how to plow, what to plow, of course you're using your mind. What, I'm not going to use my mind. I've got to be out of my mind not to use my mind. Of course you're using your mind. Are you not supposed to use your mind? So what does it mean, Yigia Samoichin? There's a diuk over here. Mitla Rebbe touches Pnimiya Samoichin. It goes into different, what does that mean? What do these words mean? There's another pasuk that says, Sheish Yam Tabid Vayem Hashvi Tishbais. Many of my Mormons brought down. It also says Te'osa. Sheish Yam Vayem Hashvi Tishbais. 6 days you work, and the 7th day you rest Shabbos. So all my Mormons ask a question. Say, David is coming to tell me not to work on Shabbos. Say, Vayem Hashvi Tishbais. I know that I have to work on 6 days. I mean, it's kind of, if I'm not going to work 6 days, I'm going to starve. So, I mean, you don't have to tell me to work on 6 days. That's the given. I have to tell me Yemesh V'Tishbais. It says in the pasuk, Te'osim Elocha. Menasa b'derech Milah. What do all these words mean? Comes along Chassidus and explains like this. There are two ways to work. A Yid doesn't work because the working makes it happen. And we'll discuss this. A Yid works because the Eibishter told him to work. These are the words we find. Well, what does this mean? When things make sense and they work out, there's a recognition that's expected, and we have to discuss, that a Yid should recognize it's not the making sense that makes it happen, but it's because he wants it to happen when it makes sense that it happens. It happens to happen through a happening of making sense. But it's not the making sense that makes it happen. And we have to discuss this. What does this mean? The Eibishter created a world. You know where you see this? Let me play this out right away in live so it's easier to see. You see this in the difference between a person who has a career and a person who has business. Business, I need to say a deal maker versus a career. And then I'll say the Aces and Chassidus how they play out. A person who has a career feels very dependent on their boss. A person who makes deals, even when it makes sense, he knows he has to pray that it should happen. Not all the time the things that make sense happen. He's davening that it should actually happen, and it shouldn't be a last minute cancellation. And it shouldn't be a last minute the bank pulls out, and whatever it is. Those who do deals see this on a day-to-day basis. A deal could come out of nowhere and works out. A deal that you work on a few months doesn't work out. The area of Hashgacha Protis is more morgish, it's more felt in areas where you're not set within a certain parameter. Taxi drivers see this a lot. You speak to taxi drivers, you'll hear this from them. People that are set in certain parameters, I have my boss, it's easier to fall into the habit of feeling a slave to a boss. We say that, slave to a boss. Some people can even develop a habit within a career that they're not a slave to a boss. And they see a firing of a position as an opportunity rather than as being choked and being killed and whatever it may be. There's a thought pattern behind this. This is the end game of the thought pattern, how it plays out. The thought pattern is things that make sense are not safe pasuk. They don't determine. You see, we live in a life. Let's go to the root of it. We live in a world where there's two categories. There's creating a product and there's delivering a product. On a train, you have a conductor. You have a driver, you have a conductor. You have a person who made the train. You have a salesman of a car and a person who made the car. There's a great creator who made the car. There's a great creator who made the train and is driving the train. But you need someone to deliver. You need someone at the end of the day. You made a great product. You need FedEx to deliver it to the door. Without FedEx, it's not going to happen. You go into a restaurant. There's a great chef who made food. You need a waiter to deliver the food. If the waiter won't come to the table, it's not going to happen. And if you get to know the waiter, you might get it first. If the waiter kind of likes you, if it gets through his head and he kind of connects with you, it's a good thing. You tip the waiter for a reason. You don't tip the chef. The food is made, done. The waiter is the delivery system is an independent system. You're not saying there is no creator and there's no person who made, but I need to have the delivery. So most people look at making sense as a delivery. That's how things are delivered. It has to make sense for something to happen. We'll use the word, it has to make sense. No. Hashem wants it to make sense. The moment he doesn't want it to make sense, it's not going to happen. There's two ways to fight a company. The Gashmis. You have a competition. You want to fight a company? Try to take away customers. Try to do whatever you want. There's another way. Demoralize them. Demoralize them. Psychological warfare. The whole thing falls apart. When there's no Ratzon, there's no nothing. We have to recognize, what are we saying over here? Chassidus comes along with a thought pattern. Till Chassidus, the thought pattern of the world, it's like someone says, how are you going to destroy the world? How's Abish going to destroy the world? People, you have to fire anybody. It's like psychological warfare. You stop doing it, it falls apart. When it makes sense, there's two people that daven. There's the first person that davens, the businessman in the beginning, who we discussed, and that businessman says, Eibishter, stay out. Eibishter, just don't make a hurricane, everything works out. And then there's a savvy businessman, someone who even big Gashmis can get it. He's a deal maker. He sees, Eibishter, I need you to the last minute. Because even when it makes sense, it won't happen unless you push it through until the last minute. I need you to keep on pushing. The making sense is not going to seal the deal. The making sense is simply a delivery process that you want. I know you can do it without it, and you created that delivery process. I need you to keep on pushing. The moment you don't want it, the whole thing falls apart. It's all dependent on you. I need you to want. You walk by a building. You see a beautiful tractor, a sophisticated tractor. Someone had to create that tractor. Someone had to put a lot of thought. But when you walk by the tractor, and the tractor is building a building, right? We're nachbasa. You see a beautiful building. Look how this works. You see a beautiful building. What's the first thought when you see a beautiful building? The architect. But wasn't there a tractor? Wasn't there a person on the tractor push? No, you see the architect. Because everything that happened from the moment of the architect until there, credit is given to the one who, it's see-through. You see, certain things are transparent. Transparently recognized that you're in my hand. If I'm holding something, the moment I let go, it falls apart. So, you're not going to ask my hand. You're going to ask me if you want it. You're going to recognize I'm the person behind it. It's up to me. If I want it to happen, it happens. If it doesn't want it to happen, it doesn't happen. What Chassidus is discussing over here, and that's what we're discussing over here in 6 to 9. Let me show it to you inside. Hashem specifically gave us Shemitah. It's the biggest liberating mitzvah. You know what that mitzvah is telling you? Don't worry, I never let go of you. I never let go of you. I never gave you in the hands of a waiter. If the waiter doesn't like it, don't worry about it. Well, haraya, you're in my hand. Look at the Jewish people. Statistically, we shouldn't be around. If everything depends on making sense, we shouldn't be around. Birtsoinoi, what's the lashon over there in Rosh Hashanah? Birtsoinoi. We sing it all the time, right? Whatever the lashon is over there. Yeah, Birtsoinoi. Everything is totally Birtsoinoi. That's the lashon. The whole. Yeah, everything. What's the Birtsoinoi? Why do we say the word Birtsoinoi? What's the idea of Birtsoinoi? Ratzon is something, when a person's in a bad mood, everything falls apart. The biggest idea is everything just falls apart. He's in a good mood, everything comes in. So is it the thoughts it's the good mood that allows a thought to be a thought. If not for the good mood, everything falls apart. So what's really behind everything? Ratzon. The worst thing in a person is depression. Because nothing can function. So if you look at a person, beautiful head, kind heart, Birtsoinoi is if there's no will behind the person, that's the biggest machla. A great business, there's no will behind it, the whole thing falls apart. A person who any talent, birtsoinoi, is the core of everything. Goyim, the Eibishter put under the talent. If the talent works, they put them under Teva. The Eibishter created a system, and Goyim don't have Shemitah. The Eibishter gave us Shemitah because he's trying to tell us, I never let go of you. And there's going to be two nafkaminas of this. But let me first chazir this again. There's going to be two ways how this plays out in life. Let's first review this again inside. So what do we start with? Let's get this. This is a little bit nuanced, so let's make sure we're on the same page. First question we had is, what does it mean when we say in life, Baruch Hashem? Start off with a question. Say Baruch Hashem. Thank the Eibishter. Where does that think seep into? Most of the time, it seeps into the framework, not into the details, into the waking up, to the Teva HaKloli. This is in life, and this is in the nature of the world. The Baal Shem Tov says, a leaf of a tree, the Eibishter made a specific leaf fall. Let's think into it. What's the idea of a specific leaf? A specific leaf from a tree is like a specific thought out of my head. It's the same idea. The Eibishter created wind. The Eibishter created certain nature. Certain circumstances bring to certain results. So why did I say the Eibishter is in the specific outcome when there is circumstances that really popped out that outcome? Just like in my head, the Eibishter created me. The Eibishter created me with a lot of, and those talents popped out a thought, popped out a kind act, popped out different things. Why are you going to the Eibishter for those? So you see, it's in Teva HaKloli, it's the same thing as Teva Protis. It's the same thing. Same thing in my mind when I say, it's my thing. It's the same thing in the world. And that's how the businessman looks at it. That's how Teva looks at the Eibishter. It's a normal thing. We say in God we believe, in God we trust, or whatever it may be. All the different lishonos that the world uses for Eibishter, it's usually in the sense of creating the Teva, the circumstances, the outside things. And certain circumstances we don't want to stay out.
Cause and effect.
Ilah always cause and effect. And that's how they look at the Eibishter. You created something, you caused something. Okay, very good. Leave it alone. It's all good. So that is the Yisoid of Derech Enosh, like we explained. Derech Enosh, the generation after Adam, they were in agriculture. And what did they say to Eibishter? Just allow the sun to go, allow the rain. So who do we have to pay attention to? Where is our focus? Where is our mind focused? On the nature. The rain. If there's no rain, we're not going to be able to live. So kavod doesn't mean giving him a coffee. Kavod means focus. Kavod means priority. Who's most important to me? Where do I focus my life on? My energy. That's what I have to focus. If it makes, in two words, they focus if it makes sense. If it makes sense, it's going to happen. That's it. That's how the world felt, started to feel. That's evolution, by the way. That's the real evolution started then. Evolution means how people became independent. The Eibishter created a world. How do we become independent? The first moment of independence is that moment when we say, you created us, you allowed us, there's a framework, and now I'm going to allow myself to play within the framework. That's the first level between a person believing and a person koifer. The first level is, it's a teva. And you hear a lot of from Yidden that say, but I have to, you see, you can sing Ein Soimchen Al Hanes in different ways. You can sing it Ein Soimchen Al Hanes and be a koifer, and you can sing Ein Soimchen Al Hanes and be a maimen. Depends how you sing it. The person who sings Ein Soimchen Al Hanes and comes home and says, the Eibishter messed me over like the Shabbos one, he's also saying Ein Soimchen Al Hanes. But he's a koifer. Because what is he saying? He's saying, Eibishter, you stay out. Ein Soimchen Al Hanes, that means to say, we're not going to be soimech on you all the way up there. We're here, you're away. Shabbos example, the oivei in the Shabbos example, what's the oivei in the Shabbos example? Yid comes home, his oivei, you messed me over again. What is he saying, you messed me over? Because you're not here. You were supposed to be there and you're coming into my life. Ain't soimchen al, stay over there, do me a favor. I don't want to be soimech. You're far away. Separate. That's the Ein Soimchen Al Nes, how you can sing it in a way that it's a koifer. They say there was two people who used to take trains. Yeah. It's a Maimer HaMuzgar. It's a joke that they say. say there was going to the mikveh on Shabbos is almost a malacha, but most of them didn't do it. Taking a train is almost mutter, but if you take it, it doesn't show them too good. So sometimes it's not what you do, it's the kavanas behind it are crucial. The maisem is the same. It's shemei Torah mitzvahs. It's all the same. But what's the kavan? You come home with the oivei. That's from shituf. So that was in the beginning. So that's what we outlined in the beginning. That's the mindset at the beginning. How we look at, and it's normal to look at things that way. But what's the root of it? The root of it is that teva has a mind of its own. Making sense is kind of a fact. It makes sense, it happens. In my mind, when a person thinks that way, just recognize what you're thinking. What you're essentially telling yourself is, when it makes sense, done. It doesn't make sense, it won't happen. That's a problem. We're not supposed to think that way. Where does that come from? How can I even think that way? That's like saying, Seichel is a nivra. Seichel was created. That's like saying when a person is not in the mood, he's going to think. You can't think if you're not in the mood. The Eibishter has to want to think, and then it's going to be able to think. So it's not the making sense that makes it happen. It's the person who's able to think that makes it happen. There's someone who has to constantly energize something. And this is not the discussion, I'm just highlighting where this belongs. That's the idea of Ratzon, that's the idea of Machadish B'Tuvay. All of these things link into here. But when a person realizes that, here are two outcomes. Number one, when things make sense, we daven for them also. We daven for them also. It says, Mamin b'chayi he'olamim v'zeireya. A yid plants a seed. Eibishter, I believe it's going to plant. It's going to grow. Hello, wake up. Seed grows. The guy also put the seed. Mamin b'chayi he'olamim. What's davens to? No. Even when it makes sense, I daven it should work out. A yid knows when it makes sense, it's not the end. The Eibishter is in his life and the things that make sense to the last minute, and he invites them there. Sometimes a fry, you don't understand. What are you saying, Baruch Hashem, Mitzvah Hashem? You're saying it all the time. You have a problem? What's the Geshen? They say the Maisa with the Providence, right? The Providence had a Yidala, and Yidala used to say, Mitzvah Hashem, I'm going to pay them, and Mitzvah Hashem, I'm going to pay the rent, and Mitzvah Hashem, I'm going to pay the rent. God said, what's a Mitzvah Hashem? I'm the one paying the rent, right? What's the Mitzvah Hashem? The whole story, he took it away, and right, it's a famous story. He took it away. He threw up a monkey in his house with gold before Pesach. He thought it was going to make him tzadis. In the end, the monkey ate the matbei, the golden matbeis, and he ended up. So he says, "You see, the Eibishter helped me with what? With the monkey that you thought you're going to make me tzadis. That monkey ended up being right." There are a lot of different stories of how the emir tzashem of a yid. Yeah, it's ingrained in a yid that even when it makes sense, it's not because of you. A different story, they say the Shver once and brought in someone before the Chassidus. He asked, how you make money? They asked the Shver, what happened? He says, ich bin der Eibishter. Ich bin nicht der Eibishter. I'm not going to give him any money. But anyway, the Mitzvah Hashem and a Yid is really even when it makes sense. And the nafkamin is when it doesn't make sense. When it doesn't make sense, we're not in a spol. Because we're never meant to be under the shibud. Shibud means we're not a slave. Yidden, like we spoke about in the beginning in Amunah, Yidden were never, ever put. The Fidik Rebbe, when he's on the way to Kastrama, said this. A Yid was never put under goals. Yid, Etzem, Shabbos and Shemitah are indicators that we have a different system. We play the system, but we're not owned by the system. And that's a huge difference in sleeping. To be able to sleep at night, the person has to know that. We play the system, but we're not owned by the system. Bitachon is a consequence of this mindset. And it plays out. I say the word sleep because it's nervin. It's nerves. It's in the sense of calm. Why is a person nervous? Because they're dependent on something. When you depend on something is when you're nervous. When you feel like it's never going to happen if that's not going to happen. Why did you say the word never? Because you're sure that it can't happen unless it makes sense. Not true. Let go. Statistically, we don't make sense either.
What did you say? It was Amunah? Bitachon.
Bitachon is a consequence.
I don't know the difference between
And
the
this
two.
is Bitachon is the consequence of that. Amun is what we're born with. And it comes out, the feeling of Bitachon is when a person feels so sure in the end. Noshim tzidkani is, b'schutz noshim tzidkani is, noshim have this b'teva. More than anoshim. And muna, which leads to Bitachon. The feeling, keli means I'm accepting him wholesomely. Not only in my actions, in my mind. This is keli. Keli means in my mind, I feel and I know that even when it doesn't make sense, this is something that a person is able to understand, but only because they're a yid. It's a catch-22.
But it must be madregas in that level too.
There's a story. Let me say one more story. I'll bring this out. A person I know that went to a
I'll give you
doctor.
an example. You mentioned people taking sleeping pills. There are people who are in such pain that if they would tolerate the pain, they will get worse. So in such a case, they shouldn't ease off their pain?
No, I'm not saying not to take sleeping pills. I'm saying
I'm
not to
just
take it
using
when you
that
don't
as
need.
an example. B'chlal, a lot of people go to doctors to ease off their misery. They don't even have the energy to do tshuva. Of course, gdolat tshuva shemeviah refuah la'olam. But to get to that level, we still use, to some degree, doctors.
I don't like the word level. Let me tell you why I don't like the word level. A real businessman, go to a businessman, a deal maker, will tell you the same words. This is not really something against Teva. A person within Teva could understand this. A deal maker recognizes that not everything that makes sense is 100%. In business, they say the unexpected determines outcomes more than the expected.
Okay.
Right? They say that all the time. The unexpected can change. 9/11 changed. 2008 changed business. And there are businesses that prosper on these kind of things. So even a savvy person, and the more you're experienced, young business comes in, he says, this is a great deal, it's for sure going to happen. The older one says, wait, Tatala, let's see it happen. I've been around enough to know that even those things that make sense, they could also not happen. So really, we do understand that making sense is not the end game to making it happen. It's not like something out of space, right? It takes effort for a yid to realize, and I said yid because we were never delivered into a, see what happens is I make a product and then I put it in a place and then you take it out of there. So many people, we're naturally wired to think, the Eibishter put us into the world and we have to make it happen. He never let go. As a story, let me give you a story and an example. The story that Rebbe always brings up are stories of doctors, right? Nitin l'shus l'roifei l'rapois. A doctor heals. So we say when a doctor comes and gives you a death sentence, right? So someone I know was at a doctor and his father was very sick. The doctor comes in and tells his mother, you should just know, gives him the whole thing. And she's already scared because he had a heart attack. And he's basically causing her to have a heart attack by what he's telling her. So he got upset. He turned around to the doctor. He says, where'd you get a degree? University. He says, really? You guys have a God department there? How do you know he's going to die? Who told you? Where in that department did they teach you how to help kill people? He tore him down a little bit. Where does it say over there? Where's the God department? There's a gray area between understanding something and determining something.
But that depends on the
So just like the doctor has that, we can recognize that in our own life. Even when it makes sense, it doesn't have to happen. And even when it doesn't make sense, it does not have to happen. This is where the nafkamina, this is one story. Another example, I like this example. There was once a child, and it's murumas in a child, and the father, rich families do this sometimes. And the parents wanted to teach the child to make a living. So what do? Because what happens is the child's going to take over the company, and he has no clue how to work the company. He was born into the company. He didn't build the company, so he's going to kill the whole thing. So the father tells the child, "I'm putting you into the mailroom. Mailroom is like the bottom of the ladder. You're going to deliver packages." Kid is kicking and shoving. I want to sit in the warm in the leather chairs. I want to. This is You're going down. And one kid in the family usually goes through this. The other kids, we tell them, yeah, sit in the leg of the church, you stay out of the company. You're talking gonna mess it up. One kid, I know you're a shayach, I'm putting you in the mailroom because I think you can do it. Puts him in the mailroom, and he works through the mailroom. Then he tells him, I want you to go into the other part. Each part he works into, and he gets a salary like everybody else. One day, he gets used to it. He's like a regular employee. One day, the father tells him he can go on vacation for 10 days. Or I need you to do something for 10 days. He says, I can't. I'm working for my boss, and if I'm going to go away, my whole thing, I'm not going to be able to do my job. He says, you're not an employee. You're not an employee. He never put you into the company as a nail on the wall, as if I put you there to own it. I put you there to get to know it, to own it. You were never, ever an employee. You were learning from within, fine, but you were never, ever an employee. So one example brought down, what's avoida? Avoida doesn't mean avoid and golos. We're not a goy. We're never, ever given tachas, the memshola of someone else. You have no boss. I told you to take off that day. It's going to work out. Don't worry about it. Realize that I never put you in that system. You were never systemized. There are those who are systemized. We call it the ayin mazolis and different words we use for that. That's one example. Another Moshe brought down is a son who tells his father, Tati, I want to do it on my own. I don't want to have anything to do with your company. I want to do it on my own. Okay, so he goes out on his own, sends out a resume here and there. He finally gets a job offer. He calls his father, you see, I got it on my own. I'm at my own place. I have my own place. So he says, where'd you get a job? I got a job by Yankel this. He says, it's very good because I spoke to Yankel yesterday that he should take you for the job. So you think you do. So there's avoid that doesn't mean that you're on your own. We're not tachas. Making sense or not making sense, the sense of it is not what makes it happen. And that's where we usually end up in the sense of bitachon, in the sense of a reife, in the sense of all the problems, in the sense of Shabbos, in the sense of all the areas of Chassidus. Chassidus, it says like this. The axe needs to be sharp to cut. The same sharpness has to be by Esther. It's brought down another two examples. Esther versus the Meraglim. The Meraglim told Moshe Rabbeinu, Ein balabayis yochel lohitzi kelev. In the Midbar we had mun. You want us to have wars the way you fought it with Anani HaKavod? I got it. You want us to fight a war that doesn't make sense? It doesn't make sense. I can't fight a war and have casualties in a war zone that's played out the way the world plays out a war zone and then expect results that are not expected within the world that I'm playing. It doesn't make sense. Ein balabais yachol. The Eibishter himself can't come and the Eibishter can't come in Teva and change it from the way he made it. He created these tools. He made make up your mind. What do you want to do? They were very confused. He can't take out his own vessels that he created. It's a Lashon and Rashi that explains what the Meraglim's frustration. Esther, look at Esther. Esther fasted before she went to Achashverosh. Hello, Achashverosh took you not to fast. Fasting is not going to help. Esther realized that all the things that made sense happened already. They didn't work. Not because it makes sense does it happen. Because if he wants it to make sense, it's going to happen. It could have happened. Why didn't it happen? Because he doesn't want. So she went straight to the Eibishter. She went straight to the Eibishter because that's part of how it makes it happen. The Chassidus, the Lashon is, Torah Mitzvahs is part of the Keli. Torah Mitzvahs, when I'm doing a Torah Mitzvahs, don't think that's a meddling into my affair kind of thing. That's making it happen kind of thing. That attitude doesn't let you have an oived. Because the Shabbos, right, it's easier said than done. I'm not taking that away. It's a lot easier said than done. But the attitude behind it is one that a person appreciates that it's every moment he has to make the making sense to make it happen.
Esther had a major mentor, Mordechai.
That's right.
I mean, he said to her, it's going to happen no matter what. You bring the channel, the delivery system, and otherwise it will happen through someone else. So he infused her already with that
Mordechai
level.
was a Ish Yehudi, Ish
Okay.
Amunah.
So we are affected by the Sviva also, unless we have a melech. That's why you didn't have to have a melech.
That's why we have Chassidus in Nechanami. The whole idea of Chassidus, that's why it was given in the Derech Achronim. The whole idea
It
of...
was even worse. It's totally
So let,
Friends are awesome, never mind.
let's summarize this so we have this straight. Mordechai is a Rebbe. A Rebbe gives das. Or what's das? Das is to focus on the right thing. What's das? Das is focus. Don't get distracted by systems. Stay focused on who you really are. You're a child. You're not an employee. You were never systemized. You were told to work the system. Don't be owned by it. It's easier said than done, again. But this is what a Mordechai does internally to us, to allow us to actually have such feelings. And this is what we do to ourselves when we learn Mordechai's Torah. And this is what we're supposed, this is at the core of all realize where the frustrations come from. The Torah frustrations are all rooted in this. Modern Orthodox and all the other labels given to Judaism is all cornered around this conundrum. Is it modern or is it Orthodox? Is it Teva or is it Eibishter? Where is Eibishter found in Teva? Is it going to become a modern Eibishter or is he Eibishter that's in modern and it's in Teva? It's a confusing thing because they're confused. Chassidus doesn't use the word modern. There's Eibishter. Wasn't modern Orthodox? As if there's a modern thing and then there's an Orthodox thing and you got to somehow confuse. What are you confused by? I tell you why I'm confused, because he told me to do something. But then I don't understand it. So say you're confused, but don't call him confused person. Don't label him confused. Say I'm confused. Fine, I got it, but don't confuse him. But that's the core of all Torah problems is around this nakuda. How much is it me, and how much is it Hashgacha Protis? Means something happened. Oh, Hashgacha Protis. What do you mean Hashgacha Protis? We say it all the time. We don't even realize, right? Because it's in our lingo, because we were taught that way.
It's every minute.
But if the more we think about it, the easier a person has. And we have it in many areas. You look at someone else, someone doesn't. What do you mean? You don't see you don't, even in English they say small miracles. Don't they say that? Small miracles. That's Hashgacha Protis. Why is it called small? Because it's not big. Why is it not big? Because he's not intrusive enough to throw you over and blow you over. He didn't show you the stars. So you have to see the stars on your own. Fine. So it's called Hashgacha Protis. It's called small miracles because I have to make it happen rather than it happans. Milah. That's why it's called small, right? I don't know. I assume it's called small.
We had a small miracle. What do you mean?
That's the
A
lashon.
miracle is a miracle. What do you mean?
No, small means it's not obvious to all. It's not obvious to all. I see. Someone else is going to say coincidence. Someone else will say it happened. And even me, I say some things happened. Okay. And then I say, oh, you're just being too much by that Hashgacha Protis.
But this is something you couldn't. Whatever.
Okay, so we still call it small. It's not blowing. In Chassidus terms, Milah
Can't call it
lamata.
small, you're saying?
No, we should call it miracles. The lashon small is not a meduyak lashon in Chassidus. It's a terminology of people.
I didn't like it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you're right.
I said, where are you calling it small? It's a miracle. That's what it is.
You're right, but the terminology people
Sometimes
use.
a miracle is like when you go to Baruch and you find a parking spot, you say thank you.
That's a miracle. That's not a small miracle. That's a big miracle.
If you were in the war and you weren't blown away by the tank and you was flying for safe, you'll consider that like
Yeah.
a volcano erupted and you just left 3 seconds ago and you weren't hit by it. That's when you'll say, "Oh, it's a big miracle." You know what I'm saying? So this.
But it's the same miracle. The same.
But there are also minor things and all major. There is a difference. There is a difference between
But let's look at Yaakov. He prepared himself on different levels.
But there is.
He did use some seichel. I mean, according to
Can't say it's the same significance.
Chat,
The nafkamina of this whole discussion is one nafkamina.
the attitude.
The one nafkamina. When it comes to an area of Torah mitzvahs, I shouldn't feel like Hashem is messing me over. That's the whole nafkamina. In the
Can I just say-
three examples, let me just say the three examples brought down is Shabbos, Shabbos Shemitah, that's one example. Masa matan, how you conduct business, which is maybe because there's mirma, there's trickery.
Well, there's a lot.
That's a second, yeah. In Chassidus, these three areas are brought down as how this plays out in life. And the third area is minche. Why mincha? Because for men, mincha means I have to stop what I'm doing in the middle of making it happen, and I'm going to lose. So that's the third area that's brought down. And then the lashon in the Maimorim is just like a knife has to be sharp, it's got to also be the person pushing it. The person pushing it is Torah mitzvahs. So why are you putting? It's not a contradiction of one of the other. You have to have a sharp knife, which means to say
What are the first two?
The 3 areas of
Shabbos, Shemitah. These are 3 examples brought down. It's not exclusive. I mean, I can find you examples in happiness. I mean, there's examples in life that are, in how the Eibishter created marriage and how the Eibishter created other mitzvahs. You see how people could also feel like he's meddling into my own affairs, right? But the 3 examples in Koichi B'Oitzim Yadi versus accepting Eibishter, the Baruch Hashem versus my thought is Hashem. The 3 examples brought down are these 3 examples because they're blatantly
What are the
shouting out, what am I doing? Shabbos Shemitah is one. Mirma in business, trickery in business, right? So, one second, but I know I'm going to make more money if I do that. And everybody does it. I once went in a firm, and it was when what's his name was caught, Spitzer. So the guy tells me, he says, "Think he was caught? We all do it. He was caught." So that's in areas of morality. In the areas of business, it's the same thing. Some people are caught. Some people are smarter. What's the difference between a lawyer and a robber? You know the difference? One does it through breaking a door, and one does it in court. It's the same thing. It's just a sophisticated way of being able to rob someone else. One does it through his mouth, and one does it through his hand. I mean, it's what? That's why we have lawyers, to help us rob each other. But the idea behind it, is.
Mita, the Eibishter promises.
Oh, but it's not.
It's like clear in Chumash.
From the promise to my action it's
I mean, Shabbos, he also calls it that's a bridge between you and a chai. It's a different category. So a Jew's attitude has to be a little different.
Shabbos is very difficult. You know how many businesses run? We spoke about this a few times. You know how many businesses run? Who just told me a story of? Someone told me a story that they have it. I don't know if it's halacha. She has her husband runs a travel agency. He doesn't sell tickets to customers who fly on Shabbos if they're Jewish. Or make tickets for Shabbos. He won't sell the ticket. And tickets, it depends. It could be a business class ticket. It could be a different kind of ticket. Every business, these things play out. Retail Shabbos, I mentioned this a few times. B&H,
I want you to know that.
right? Retail
Guy-
Shabbos is a.
A guy who works at B&H came to my house for Shabbos. He works for many years. And you think that it's not just a big deal that they close on Shabbos. They also close Friday afternoon, morning. But their website is not on.
That's right.
But what's the problem with that? So you can't make sales. You have to do sales afterwards. There's a huge problem. I didn't know. He told me that they have rebates, and the rebates expire Friday night or Saturday, and they don't process it until Sunday. And they come in, and the receipt is Sunday, but the rebate is over on Saturday night. And this is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And people were screaming. They can't say that. Customers came in complaining, and they got the companies. I think there's a huge major. They got the companies to extend their warranty for another day.
Wow.
So it's a huge, that's a
Heavy
huge
one
major.
trip.
Like, who does that? But they did.
Not only that, Black Friday. It's a huge retail. The point of the matter.
B&H is closed,
Yeah.
and they got the major retailers to fix a problem that they never ever do, ever.
The point of the matter is to think a step behind. Who would think that a retail giant should be closed on Shabbos? It doesn't make sense. Talking about making sense, it doesn't make sense. Retail is Shabbos. It's not a. I had a story. I met a accountant. It was actually Levayev's mall in Eretz Yisrael, and he bought a mall in Ramat Aviv. Ramat Aviv is a very secular neighborhood, and he wanted to be closed on Shabbos. And he had a whole fight, a legal fight with the store owners to close it on Shabbos. You remember it?
I read it.
And his accountant told me that at one point the accountants told him that you're fighting a fight that you're doing. Is this a mitzvah Shabbos or is this business? If it's Mitzvah Shabbos, fine, we understand you. But if you're in business, you're not making money from closing that mall on Shabbos. Why are you doing this? The numbers don't. He says it's like driving a car with 3 wheels. It's you're not gonna. It's a eingakshent, and he pushed, and you know what happened in the end? What happened? It's the number. It's one of the top malls in Israel. What happened? So they made a study afterwards. What happened? So it's in a secular neighborhood where people shop on Shabbos. People stopped shopping at Shabbos and came to that mall to shop on Sunday. So they stopped. He changed the behavior patterns of it, but it wasn't predicted before by the accountants. They predicted that based on behavior patterns of now. The bottom line is Torah and mitzvahs. The mind of some businessmen take it as can't impede on my business. And me keeping Torah mitzvahs, it simply can't be an impediment to my success. And that thought pattern is key to Roiga, to Pashut being a calm person. Any area in Torah mitzvahs is, I'm told, it's not going to happen because of that. I was never lechatchila put under any systems. This is my so it's going to happen. Again, easier said than done. But I'm saying that's the yisoid of. I'm only frustrated if I'm dependent. It's very important to remember that in our head. The only time I'm really frustrated is when I'm dependent on someone. 2 employees, the same boss. Some people are like, they'll do anything. Some people have a mensch, they have a life. And they're able to say no, rightfully. Some people can't. What do you mean I can't? Oh, you're a dependent kind. Who are you dependent on? Dependency leads to these kinds of... and Chassidus is looking to take away dependency or relocate it to somewhere else. Not even dependent, simply to...
We depend on Hashem.
Where is that depend? We're being allowed... Yeah. We're dependent on Hashem. He's dependent. Yeah.
No,
we need him to want, and he wants, and he has us. So, but it's not through the system. We're not dependent on the system.
Right.
And that's the idea. Summarize the idea. So we start off with the question. We have now a kind of thought pattern. So yeah, a real person. I've seen this many times. I've heard this from people who are siyata dishmaya. Some people you hear they talk. They say, I made it happen. And some people you hear, it worked out, Baruch Hashem. You hear, even successful. In other words, even though they were talented and they made it and they worked on it, but do you hear how they go ahead describing their talented success with an infusion of it wasn't only me? This is where the word bittul comes in. This is what the whole Chassidus is about that. It's really all about that. And this is where it says, some people have a hard time, why women... We call them mikabel, and men mashpia. Mikabel means that they get it. They get this nekuda. Emunah is there more. Mikabel means that they're mikabel the Eibishter. They allow him to come into the thought. Yeah, they see Hashgacha Protis more. They're not blinded. They're not so They're not so self-oriented to be so to have an obstruction from seeing it in the thought. Not only in the good head, but teva they have that. That's the noshim tzidkanias in Mitzrayim. That's the noshim tzidkanias by the midbar. A lot of different examples. The gold, the mirrors, right? All different examples. That's why Makabel is the ultimate Milah. That's when Mashiach comes. They're going to be the biggest. Now it's understood. It's the biggest Milah. The biggest Milah is allowing him into your life. Mashpia means a attitude of giving means that you think you have it. An attitude of allowing means he is in your life. That's the yisoid of what it means when we say mashpia, makabel, when we say noshim of moramuna, all these different things go around it. They have less mitzvahs because they don't need them. You need a mitzvah to mimavar. You need a mitzvah to help yourself out. They don't need to help themselves out. A man has to go out and work because he's essentially working on himself. He's working on his attitude, on his thought process. By him coming in touch with Shabbos, he's helping himself realize how a woman doesn't need it. She has a beteva. That's why they raise children. All these things come because the emunah by them leicht. By a man, it's hard.
That's why she doesn't need a bris milah.
Orla, yeah.
Yeah, there's
The
no
mitzvah of
wrong with it.
Milah, this is all from mitzvah Milah of the Tzemach Tzedek. Mitzvah of Milah is taking off the Orla. What's Orla? Orla is this problem. Very good. Arla is this problem. This problem exists by men more than by women.
So what's the
They're born mohul, essentially.
Yeah.
And by men, they have this problem. And that's why men have the koichi veitzim yodi exists by men more. And they have to go out to work. And we'll talk about a different time. The yigia kapecha, the reason why we sweat, why they just punish with sweating. But he has, it's like a person that you do something wrong. I'll send you into the corner. You're gonna be punished. The whole. What did I do? I ate from the Eitz Hadas. He's throwing me into the world for 3,000 years to sweat for a living. What happened? Relax. Hello. Just take a pill. You know. Really, what did I do? My kesha between what I did and what. And no, the sweating is realizing that it's not you. You thought you're on your own. You told me who do you think I am? Right? You told me who do you think I am? Who do you think you are? We'll put you into the world and we'll see how you're going to do it. But that's a different discussion, right? But that's essentially a therapy. A woman doesn't need it as much. So all of these things tie into the Milah of Kalim is in Noshim more than Anoshim.
So
that
why
ties
do
into the
boys
Yud
have
Shvat.
bar mitzvah later than
Less than that's why Zman Groma. You don't have mitzvahs that are tied into Zman. And we have mitzvahs that are tied into.
What about the bar and bas mitzvah? Why girls, is that also tied into that?
That's how it ties into maturity. But I'm talking about the mitzvahs. I'm not talking.
So that has nothing to do with mashpim kama.
The maturity thing, the earlier age.
But where's the ain't some panel in this? And where's like if a person has a problem with parnasa and the bills have to be paid.
Make a keli. When we say make a keli,
You say don't have a daiga. If people have daigas, then
interesting. When the Rebbe has, people have problems. They write into the Rebbe. Right into the Rebbe. What does the Rebbe write? Different letters, Rebbe writes different things to different people. Sometimes the Rebbe says, Ein simchen alanes. Get out and do something. Right? Okay, fine. Many other times, what the Rebbe writes is make a keli also beruchnius. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Make a keli and make a hisaf and Torah mitzvahs. What does that really mean? A person has a hard time in shidduchim, a hard time in bondei, a hard time in zayneh, a hard time in malchaye. Make a keli. Do extra. What is extra Torah mitzvahs? You mean a salesman of Torah mitzvahs? How does that directly affect me getting something more? Because getting something from the Eibishter is the more you invite him into your life. Invite him internally. Invite him in your head. The Rebbe is not just telling you to do it. The Rebbe is trying to also impress upon you. Torah mitzvahs is allowing you to be more in. That's where it plays. It's like the mincha of the businessman. Is it you or is it him? Sometimes we don't realize Esther had to fast. Fasting, she realized the making sense doesn't make it happen. Who makes? It's a mindset. So the Torah mitzvahs is part of the keli. Because the keli is one thing. It's me being part of allowing him to show. I'm inviting him into my life. I didn't say this over here. Okay, that one. I'll mention it quickly. It's brought down that on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, everything is given. So what do I have to do anything throughout the year? I didn't mention it. Why do I have to do anything throughout the year? So it's explained. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, it's given. But the Eibishter is waiting for me to, it's like when you make a trip and you decide everything, then it's bad weather. Bad weather, I can't come. I can't go on the trip. Weather is me. We're the recipient. Everything is a giver and a recipient. The giver gives everything, right? He just wants that we should allow him. Open up. Get good weather. What's good weather? Good weather is the mindset. How do I look at him? You don't have to change anything in substance. You're changing things in the sense of attitude. Attitude is everything. And the attitude means to say that the Torah mitzvahs, it's as important. What's more important? David is looking at what's more important when it comes to moments of focus. What's more important? The mitzvah that's intruding, the mincha that's intruding into your business meeting, right? Am I really part of your life or am I intruding into your life? Which businessman are you? The businessman that feels like I should stay out, or businessman that's davening, even want to make sense it should happen? That's what he wants to know. That's it. Making it more. But that's the mindset behind this. So the Torah mitzvahs, it should somehow subconsciously at least realize that it can't be an impediment. Someone that says, I'm not going to be happy if I'm going to do this in this mitzvah. It can't be. It's going to simply make me an unhappy person. It's not true. It's going to make me unsuccessful financially. It's going to make me unsuccessful this. Not true. How can I look at it that way? How can I say a mitzvah will cause me to be unsuccessful? That's at the core of the conundrum of the modern, or of the Torah, modern. Torah and Teva. Right? Eibishter and Teva. Or modern means Teva. And Torah means Milah. Oh, there's a stira. Not a stira. What does the Rebbe say? Technology is not a stira. It's punkt verkehrt. You see from the world, you see Eibishter. It's not a contradiction. We spoke about this many times. What does the Rebbe talk about? The Rebbe says, eat kosher when a person has a problem with health. Ma'akash, no, because it's one thing, there's an Eibishter. And he made the world in a way that it doesn't contradict him. It can't contradict him because he's making it happen. And he made us in a way, actually, begashmis, that when we eat kosher, it's actually good begashmis uberuchnis. It's good for us. There's many stories like that. They gave a bracha, and as soon as they stopped, the bracha went away, right? There's many stories that everybody gives a bracha and attaches kashrus. It's not just kashrus. Kashrus goes with health, taras mishpacha with marriage, mezuzah with security. I mean, you have tons of mitzvahs that are linked into gashmiistic physical bali chayim azayna, different areas in life. They're linked into that. What's the idea behind it? Because there's no real separation. A yid's wired to be successful with the Torah mitzvahs is how he's going to have a good life. Like we spoke about the examples of the Pintel Yid, right? He can't live without it, like the artist, right? We spoke about that a little while ago. He can't. So these are simple. This is in Chassidus is at the end. First they explain the idea of what a Yid is. Then we understand that a Yid is different. And then it's a different person working. He's a son working. All these examples are interlinked to bring out that we're not owned by a system. We play a system, play it well. It's not a lottery. You got to figure out something to do. But at the same time, we're not owned by it. We're not determined by it. Statistics can be wrong. Some people go to these people that have what do they call it? IQ. They read your IQ. Azevis design. It's not true. It's not true. We're not under Ein Mazel Yisrael. We're not under any kind of predetermined outcome. Not true. We're not in a system. We have the abilities to push through things. Even when Gzeiras happen, they can go away. When we hit, and the more a person attaches themselves to Inyanim of Torah mitzvahs, the more he is allowing the son to come out, not the employee. The father didn't put you as an employee. The more we recognize that, the more that is what we're here for. Genug played it, and.
Well, how do you explain people that had difficulties in life and they were very connected, and the answer that they had were Efa Hayita Beyazdi Aretz.
Efa Hayita?
Beyazdi Aretz.
What does that mean?
In other words, when I created the world in the Ratzon Arishon, in the Tzimtzum, where were you? You hadn't. I would have to change the whole world and all the Gilgulim in order to make one person. Who was it? Rabbi Hanina ben Vilsani? No.
Make him wealthy?
Somebody that was very poor. Yeah, and
He should change everything and make him
What, with the vinegar and the oil?
Yeah, he should change everything and not make it, not happen to him.
or certain Yisurim of Asara Malchut, Kachala Birtzoni. In other words, there is a Kadosh Baruch Hu is an Oseh Hafachim. In other words, we could never understand him fully. We have to be connected to Torah mitzvahs, and like you didn't like the word level, but
level means level. When people say the word level, they're essentially saying it's not going to happen. This is for tzaddikim.
No, that's not what I know.
That's why I don't like the word level.
No.
Like when I hear someone says that's a high target.
You know that means though
to say, there's two ways that you can say level. You could say level as in, okay, it takes time, step by step, fine. Then many times people say the word level as in, that's a high darga. When they say the word high darga, they mean to say, be real, that's not happening. That's not good. Because the moment I tell myself it's not happening, it won't happen. And the moment I detach myself from something, I'm not allowing it to happen. So that's why the word darga I'm a little bit allergic to. but it's just my personal allergy. It's not anything more than that.
And that's what you're talking about.
Ah,
Circumstances. We're talking about certain things that have to happen in history, people and things like that. Normal people, their daily life, don't have a sort of game markets. We're not being taken for this.
right. The most challenges that we have are not a Sarah Malchus challenges. The challenges we have are our Shabbos challenges.
Well, our generation has challenges of our generation. You can't compare to what was
What's
then.
our generation challenge? You know what our generation challenge
It's
is?
even more
It's
difficult.
Bonei Chayim Ezoinei, happiness, wealth,
Right.
and health. I can talk for the young generation. We want to feel, and this is the same thing with modern Orthodox in
How
the
about
beginning.
emotional contamination? We live in a group that, I feel that this thing of everybody's doing it and looking at everybody, it penetrated practically
But-
into the core of most of us.
But before you go to peer, before you go to looking, what's at the core of what people want? People want to feel like they can be happy. They can be
Do
a
they
human.
know?
A
They
human.
don't know themselves.
But one second. What I'm trying to say is like this. What I'm saying is like this. They want to. The world is made up of three things. Shloisha Devarim. Bonei Chaim Ezoinei. Health. Bonei Chaim Ezoinei. Health, wealth, and happiness.
What do you mean
I-
happiness?
Happiness means that it's bonei. Bonei is not nachas of children. It's marriage. It's nachas of children. It's happiness within. Happiness within it's the whole package. Happiness. That's what it is.
Happiness with the self.
Within
With the spouse,
yourself.
within yourself, within your partner, within your children, within your life. It's called bonei, but it's a parameter of yeah. And it's brought down. These are the three areas of brachas. Now, what does a person want? Person is born in this world. Ne'ilam hazak ashmi. I want to know that it's real. I want to know I can really be. I don't want to feel like a mitzvah. I don't want to feel like shomer Torah mitzvah is a contradiction to being modern, to being real with my real self in the sense of my nefesh b'hana, my worldly self, my.
You're also losing.
I'm using this word. I don't have other words. A person wants to feel that we're not angels. You know, we have kina and tachros, like the malachim, like David told the malachim. What kind of life do you guys have? Do you guys know what it is to be down there? You know, so we live that kind of life. So we want to know that the Torah talks to me. It's not talking at me, but it's talking with me, and I can get it. And that's where all the problems start, because at certain points I feel like you're talking at me, not with me. And that's what we call modern Orthodox, or that's what we call too from, little from, too cool, not cool, or with it, not with it, or all these other words we use are just words to say, is it real or is it not? How real is it? How real can it be? Do I have to give up myself or can it come into myself? Is it me? Or, these are all the words we use of teva l'maylamata. That's just the words that we use. They're just fancy ways of saying it. And essentially we say it in behavior, but we don't realize where it comes from in thought. The moment it comes from the thought, we say, one second, I don't think that way. I do think, and Chassidus talks about the thought a lot, and it talks a few. But mincha, what's mincha? Mincha is just an example for wealth. It could be in health. How to look at a doctor is in health. And it could be in happiness. As many mitzvahs, Rebbe talks about happiness. Taras mishpacha is good for this. Rebbe talks about other things, right? So all the areas is the same. And the mindset of Chassidus is that what? That don't look at yourself as, there's a contradiction here. There's like, he wants something from me that's not me. No, he's within. Achdus Hashem. He's within you. He's within every moment of, that's the thought process. The thought process brings a person that when they walk around, why do we say the word why does the word Hashgacha Protis come out of that thought process? Why does the word it was meant to be? Why was the word I saw
It's
that's
always la'achar ma'aseh, it's hindsight.
it's not only not everybody has hindsight. Not everybody has hindsight. And it's also in decision making. In Torah mitzvahs, I'm going to decide to keep mincha. Some people won't go and be makel, find a kula. Rebbe talks, I just saw a sikha, that Rebbe talks about how the conservative and reform started. And this was at the core of the same thing. There's a contradiction. So what are you doing as a contradiction? Rebbe, another sikha that Rebbe talks that says, when the rocket went onto the moon, so there was a contradiction. It says in the Kiddush Levana, "V'lo yachlu l'ngoya." So 1 second, they just touched it. It's a contradiction. It was big chachamim. Some from my people said, you know what? It's a contradiction. We have to edit the siddur.
Edit the siddur.
Edit the siddur. It's a, you know, gotta
That's why
make.
they took out Eretz Yisrael from the
And some people said you don't understand. It's probably a facade. It's probably never happened. It's a chalaim. Shahol ma'acherim al acherim. It never happened. What did it ever say? It ever just ever laughed. It ever says, the person who's saying Kiddush Levana can't touch the Levana. It doesn't say it can't be touched. You're saying Kiddush Levana over here. You can't touch it. Fine. It doesn't say. Sometimes there's no contradictions. It's just a matter of perception. It's perception.
The way we interpret a lot of things.
That's perception. It's how you see
So what
something.
do you mean? You say we want three
Now,
things
there's-
and we don't have it, it's not a perception that we can have it? Or
No, what I'm saying is the perception behind us creates different wants. When we have a perception,
What do you mean different wants? We all want these three things, right?
no, creates different contradiction. In other words, I'm not always paying attention to why I feel the contradiction. So when you pay attention to it,
You could go insane thinking like that about every little thing that we do. Eventually we change, we create a Teva Sheni, a different habit of reacting.
a guy comes to me. Okay.
We have to accept what Hashem gives us.
A guy
It's
comes
what
to
we
me.
wanted.
A guy comes to me, a yarmulke. I'll give you a difference. A guy comes to me, comes to work. He wears a yarmulke and he feels like he's going to lose money because he's wearing a yarmulke. He's going to stand out. So I can either deal with the nitty gritty of wearing a yarmulke and not wearing a yarmulke. I can ask him a different question. Aren't you a little bit embarrassed of being Jewish? No. It has to do with the yarmulke. I want to ask you a question. Sometimes you have to go to the root of the problem. Sometimes when a person says something, it's not about what they're saying, it's about where it comes from. I took the guy and I said to him, look, it's not this question. I can see it over here. And I can see it. You're simply embarrassed of who you, and that's okay. That's normal. Well, let's discuss that. Why are you embarrassed? See, embarrassment can bring to many questions. But the questions are not really questions. The questions are just simply expressions of embarrassment. Expressions of not seeing that this is really you. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you have to refocus a discussion, and a lot of consequences come from the same shayrish. So you don't want to wear a yarmulke. You don't also want to stand out. You want to find a heter. Why do you want to find a heter? What's a heter? What does it mean heter? It shouldn't have been lechatchila. The fact that it is a mistake. So I got to find a way how to rectify the mistake of the Eibishter for making that mitzvah. Right?
The Eibishter wants our heart. You're saying our Eibishter wants our minds and our heart. He wants us our connection, basically.
Yeah.
So sometimes we forget about him, and he'll shake us up, and something will happen, and we'll be reminded. Where do, in what areas you're telling me that we want him, basically, most of it? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but there are certain, so you say no matter what, you think it's not a contradiction, not a contradiction, he's always there. But it's not always there.
No, so-
Some people don't have children, or don't have finance, or don't have happiness. So what are you saying, what happens to Hashem? And I say, I can accept it, I say, this is Hashem's will, this is the way Hashem wanted it, and if I have to wait for a shidduch, if I have to wait for my money, or if I have to wait for whatever it is. I say, am I denying that Hashem is not there? Am I not saying part of the system? But
I didn't discuss koyach of tefillah. I didn't discuss the koyach of a yid to break. I did essentially touch upon it, to break systems. It all comes from this. What does it mean tefillah? Yehiratzin, new ratzin, new thing. What do you mean new things? What does that mean? That means to say the system was never something that determined me. But the word new is very difficult because the word new means I have to be new. The system, the brachas Hashem gave on Yom Kippur is to the person I am now. Is to the person I am now. Even begashmius, when you have a business and you declare bankruptcy and you open up with a new name, you have new brachas. Suddenly all your debts are away. It's a beautiful thing. You declare bankruptcy, you open up with a new name, and you have no debt. The Eibishter does the same thing. That's called tshuva, right? He does the same thing. we have the ability to do new things. When we're new people, new things open up. By the way, that's why a new name, Choila, new name, it's the same idea, right? This is the same idea. That's the idea of making a new keli for new brachas. So what is it? Where's the new keli going to come from? A new business strategy? No, from internally, who you really are. Connect to who you really are. That's why he says make new Torah mitzvahs. Make a new hachlata. What's new hachlata? Well, what's this new hachlata? Turn yourself into a new entity, a new corporation. Yeah, new name. And now new brachas come. You changed. A person who changes internally, it opens up new brachas. The change is internally. It's not a ma'aseh b'poel. In other words, the harder it is for me to do something, b'chol meidecha. The harder, this is the cloud that we have in across everywhere. The harder it is for me to do something, the more I trigger something that wasn't meant to happen. It's tit-tat. The harder it is for me to do something, and the more genuine I am by doing it simply because you told me, not because I like to. Different people. Some people like to learn. I'm going to share. Some people like to do Mitzvah Chesed. And some people, when they go to a shir, the same person, when it comes across a Mitzvah Chesed that comes to them, it's not my kind of thing to do. If it's not your kind of thing to do, then you never want to share. Oh, but we want him to change. So that's a tit-tat. That's how it is. That's b'chol meidecha. And the b'chol meidecha is specifically in those things that are hard. That's making a keli. That's genuinely bringing him into the areas that are hard for me, the areas that I don't find myself doing naturally, the areas that I'm not naturally wired to do. Oh, why did I do it for him? Over there it's genuinely him. Over there it's a durch and a durch him. So he if it's a durch and a durch him, it triggers kamayim apanim al apanim. When I do, that's what we're told. That's the idea of keli, and it happens that way. How do you measure? That's the area. That's those are the tools given to us. Tefillah breaks new barriers. Even Chizkiyahu cherev monachas al tzavari, right? Even when things run out, we have that. It's not easy, but there is such a thing. That's where the idea of make a keli comes. That's really at the yesod of make a keli. There's different levels in keli. Now you're going to a whole new level of making a new. There's making a keli as in allowing even the brachas that exist to come, which is another. But then there's a new. Make something hard that I do. That's the areas where new brachas come. So that I've always said. Where was that story that recently came? Oh, it was in Jen. She wrote to the Rebbe a letter from Milah. It was in this week's Gem. So they had the story that she had. She writes how I forgot her name.
Gorel?
Is she a Gorelic? I think her name was something else. So she writes how it was very hard for her to do the cheder over there or whatever it was.
Chazan?
And I remember the name. It was in this week's Gem. And she said she wrote an emotional letter. Kanira, she wrote her hardships. And the Rebbe wrote back, what? Hey, they showed her the banquet. She spoke? Oh, she spoke?
Cohen.
I didn't say.
MC.
No,
Yeah, so she said.
but he's talking about something from John.
Yeah. They showed the letter on the Gem. So anyway, so
Maybe they showed it after the banquet.
maybe they showed it out. I don't know. I saw it in the Gem, in the video. But when the quote that the Rebbe wrote in the letter was, the neshama comes down, comes down. So you went from New York to Milan. I understand it's very difficult, but it's not as like. And then the neshama comes down for one teva, and you did already a lot of tevas. So you can understand the nachas ruach l'mayla, and the nachas ruach. What was the Rebbe bringing out? That the difficulty she's experiencing brings brachas.
How did the Rebbe indicate that it brings brachas? In the Mashal Nimshal.
What I get from you is that we all have a lot of learning to do.
Why learning? Not only learning.
Well,
But the learning,
the learning eventually, develops the person, you know.
The only thing that
Now the learning.
the Mitzvah poil,
It also depends who the teacher is.
I'll tell you, the Mitzvah poil.
There are some teachers who can preach. They're good preachers, but they're not teachers.
The Mitzvah poil that I took when I learned this, when I was going through this, with my mom that they discussed this, is that at least when I face the mitzvahs, at least that area, that's deeper than this, but at least the way I approach things that come my way, the way if it's difficult, adrabah. You know, sometimes things are easy because I'm naturally wired to do it. I like to learn. I like to do certain things. What about when something comes to you and you don't like it? Am I going to do it anyway? If I don't, then I never learned. If I don't, then I never serve the Eibishter. It's my own thought, it's my own thing, it's because I like to do it. The areas that I'm tough, I take them as a test. Not a test, as a evaluation.
Challenge, no?
I like the word challenge. Evaluation. It's an evaluation of where I am. It's a measuring stick. Measuring stick. It's a part of a word. It's measuring. It's a measuring. It tells me where I am. Am I real? Or am I doing things that I like? You can do things that I like that are right. But you're not doing it with the right intention. You're doing it because you like it. You're allowed to like it and you should like it. But what about the things you don't like? Right? You know what I'm saying? Things that I don't like. So do I have the same gishma when I help someone? Something comes across my way and I have to help someone. And let's say don't have the same gishmak in doing. I hear this sometimes. I don't want to go to camp and help out. I don't want to do this. It's not my kind of thing. It's not my kind. What do you mean not my kind of thing? But it's a mitzvah that came your way. Mitzvah, whatever. Why is the cheshbon of not doing it not my kind? Not my kind was never something we said. We're shevet done. Right? We do it because you have to do it. Not because you have to. We do it because what has to be done is the things that we want to do. Not because we like. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But also, isn't it that in the...
That's a nafkamina. Someone who doesn't learn Chassidus, right, has a harder time appreciating mitzvahs that are less Torah. Torah, they're going to stand. You make a koil in a place. To put on tefillin with people, a random thing is something that it's very hard for them to digest. Yeah. Why? Because their kind of humans, a kind of thing is the mind. So it's all me. It's not really Torah mitzvah. There's a lot of nafkaminas on how this plays out in life. There's a lot of ways how this plays out in life.
It's also part of training. We train our kids. I know my grandchildren. It is so natural for them to go to put on tefillin with people. I mean, you grow up with it. It's a wonderful. So should they stop doing it?
Yeah, but many kids have a hard time. Many kids, and many adults, and many teenagers have a hard time. I don't want to go and ask someone in the street, "How are you Jewish? I'd rather do something else. I'd rather go to shir." So here I have a question. So why am I doing what I do? That's a measuring stick for me, and those are the areas that when I break through them, I'm a different person. If I'm a different person, I can expect different outcomes.
So if I have a tendency to have rachmanis on a situation, I'm very empathic, and I sense that the person is suffering. Should I go and refrain and become an outsider?
No, you don't become a good
Not refrain from something good. I'm saying to...
hard for you. Things that come to you difficult.
Why should you...
Something else comes up that you don't like, you don't necessarily like.
Sometimes it's very difficult for me to say
My
no.
Havazor
If you
is
ever read
fake.
the book, I
What?
feel guilty when I say
What'd you
no.
say? What's that?
No.
Who wrote it?
What's the difference? It's an old book.
Sometimes whatever way that the mitzvahs that are hard for us, those are the mitzvahs we came down for. Those are exactly the mitzvahs that we came down to this world for. But my Havazor, those mitzvahs, those things, those are... So if I'm a person that loves one thing and something comes my way and I'm not doing it, why? It's not my kind of thing. That's a huge problem that I have. Why am I not doing it because it's not my kind of thing?
Some people like to
So you go back to the root of its origin.
This is an avodah, the same thing that we just learned in thought. In thought process, it is where do I invite the Eibishter? In the things that I like, things that make sense, or I'm inviting him that I and him are partners. This in life is the idea of Ave. In life, it's when you love someone, you love their things you like, and you love the things and you learn to like also things that you don't naturally like within them. That's an avodah in the sense of ahava. Right? We talked about this a different time. And this is in the sense of Hashgacha Protis, of liking the Eibishter. What does it mean to like the Eibishter? What does it mean to know him? Know him in the areas that are hard. What do you mean hard? Hard not because he wants to punish you. Hard in the sense of open up,
So that goes into the category of yira, what we learned.
Yes, it does. But yira, not in the sense of fear. Yira in the sense of
the
bittul,
way we
acceptance,
learned
the way we
it
expect.
too.
Yeah, the
Move
way
out.
right,
Move
move
away.
out, accept. Acceptance is key in our relationship with the Eibishter and our relationship with humans. It's the same. This is the way acceptance plays out in the Eibishter. Yeah. Yira is the same as Shaydish, right? Bittul and Keli is the same words we use in Maimorim, right? But what does Keli really mean? Acceptance, allowing yourself to Nochimish gamzu l'toiva. That kind of attitude comes from an acceptance attitude. And we all have that. We all have shades and colors of seeing things that in different perspectives. And that's essentially all. These are all nice fancy words that all come from this one attitude. It's very nuanced. It's very edel. It's very it's not something you see in behavior right away, although you can see from behavior a symptom to it. It's more in the attitude, but it does have concrete areas in behavior that you can have measuring sticks to see why am I doing something, how am I doing it, that you start from there. But at the end of the day, it's a thought process. It's a thought process that a person realizes.
Who gives you the thoughts? Hashem.
It's always every day, there's someone screaming to do so.
Hashem,
That's the opportunity.
Hashem gives us, when they say, a thought that comes into my head, right, out of nowhere, right? A thought that comes into your head out of nowhere, maybe you should put that thought into your head, right? But why do I sometimes feel like maybe I should do something else? Where does that come from? If I love this, why am I even thinking that maybe I should do something else? Yeah, the Eibishter is guiding you. The Eibishter puts thoughts into our head. Of course he puts thoughts into our head. But I can ignore thoughts too. I can ignore them. Sometimes you say, I don't want to think that. So the thoughts that come into my head that are his, usually my first reaction is to, why did you come? Go away.
So when I do something different, I'm a different Keli, I'm a different person. That means on Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah, I was one person, and I got a certain brachas and a certain thing. But if I do change myself or do something that is hard to be, and I'm a new entity and a new
I make myself a new Kaylee.
That's what it means to make a new Keli.
So then I have then basically Yom Kippur is all year round.
Yeah, Adam nidim b'chol yom. Adam nidim b'chol yom. They ask this question: is Yom Kippur was once a year? So you don't renegotiate a deal after the deal is closed, right? So what do you have? Adam nidim b'chol yom. And he says this part. He says, because every day, it's part of it.
Who says this?
Some Al-Tzedek writes this.
That's why we take Cheshbon Nefesh.
That's why we daven every day. That's why we Cheshbon Nefesh. That's why we're in this world. It's another discussion. So what happens in Yom Kippur? What happens every day? What's if you say tefillah? What's if you say bracha? How do I? But in a general.
Because I feel like this in particular for myself. I had my mother was in my house and she wasn't well, and I feel like Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah it was a phase that it just happened because of everything. I wasn't really there. I wasn't really connected. I couldn't even go to shul. I didn't. Not this and not. I just felt like it kind of just passed. Not because I wanted to, but that's what it was. So it's like I know that it says that it's till Hashem and then Hashem says till Hanukkah. But you're saying that really.
Kol yom, kol rega. My attitude is the nidim b'chol yom. This, the not my kind of thing. That's the b'chol yom. Whatever I was in Yom Kippur, you're Yom Kippur.
We're supposed to do everything that we're naturally good at, plus everything that we're not.
Basically.
And also, if there's something that I'm not naturally good at, I can't go all the way. It's going to have to be a little bit.
That's supposed to be a Milah. You push a little bit. In business, they tell you, an athlete is born in the last 10 seconds of a run.
Of a run?
Yeah, what does that mean? The last 10 seconds of a run. Everybody's running. Everybody's running. The last 10 seconds, everybody's tired. One person says, I'm going to push myself so much to finish. And the person who pushes wins. Pushing in Chassidus is b'chol meidach. Pushing means that you push more. So you push. Find one thing to push. We all need him to push. So we push. That's the idea of b'chol meidach. That's what it means. We're all runners. We're all runners. We all jog and we all sprint and we all run. Depends where.
Does it also mean that the greater the challenge,
Thank you very much.